Hello there and good evening. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Kazi na Mali. Now, last week we broke down the parameters of credit appraisal. We talked about the 5 C's of credit and the Campari rule. But again, are those the only parameters that they consider, or are there other things and factors that the lenders look at before they appraise you and now say that you are tick for that loan? In studio as always is Mr. Isaiah Munguti, the head of credit from SMEP Bank. Always great to have you, sir.
Thank you, Vincent.
Weekend imekuwa nzuri?
Kabisa. I'm refreshed.
Good.
Thank you.
I want to close this down and now look into other issues, saving and all that. But now, before we move further, you know, we looked at the 5 C's, the Campari rule. But again, are those the only reasons? Are those the only factors that you people consider before you appraise a prospective borrower?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Vincent, for the question. Probably before even I answer that question, I recall from a discussion we held that you asked me, now that we have used the rules and have made our own assessment, how is the final decision then arrived at? And what is clear, what we wanted to make clear even to our viewers or listeners would be that finally, after we get these 5 C's or the Campari, many lenders, of course, assign particular weights and or scores into these parameters. You will find that character, you will assign some scores, amount, purpose, and eventually now, when the borrower is being assessed, there are scores that are being given. It may be an automated process or it may be a manual process where the credit analyst is actually just assigning points. And at the end of it now, summing up that, and in the decision making, then there are thresholds that have been set. If a borrower meets the threshold, then it's a tick, then an approval is given. But then there are parameters where there are scores where a borrower probably does not reach the threshold. Then what happens after that? So you find borrowers have added other riders, and you would hear something like, if then you don't reach the A status, probably being the top notch, where now you've met where borrowers met every criteria, then the second next to it will require some additional conditions. Maybe it will mean being stringent on how the funds are disbursed. It may mean ensuring that then a greater aspect of control on the business or on the deal to ensure that the risk is reduced. So those are the parameters that come in. But of course, there is the minimum threshold, which now the lender would say, now for this one, it's now a no. It's now a no. So I think that now should be able to settle it for our viewers in terms of how is that final decision now arrived at. But to go to your question, are there other things then that are not captured in these parameters that we consider? Yes, there are. It's lending is broad, and so like I mentioned, from the lender's perspective, it's always trying to find out more information and more areas that are critical, that are concerning the business or the individual running the business, that are very significant to the success of that particular business. Because the lending, like I mentioned, we lend to a business for future purposes. It is never to the past. It's usually to the future. So it would be important to understand, well, are there other issues that would affect the future of the business? And so I will, like we said, they are there. So we will be breaking it down further even to what are these other concerns.
Last time we talked about age and we just perused through, but now can we talk about age in the next 2 minutes or so? How is age very important for you people before you allow yourselves to really give that credit to that borrower? How is age a very important factor that you consider?
Good. Age is important. like we are saying, it is one of those issues that you look now after the scoring, and you are happy with the scoring. The next question will be, what is the age of the borrower? Age is important. It's like it translates to responsibility again. A very young borrower who is 20 years, you get an ID in Kenya. An adult is considered the one who has reached 18 years, and we don't lend any to anyone. Lenders will not lend anyone who is below 18 years. But then an 18-year-old now coming in to ask a big stake of a facility, definitely one would be asking, what is the experience? And a lender would be concerned in doing a responsible lending. What is the experience of this 18-year-old in running a business? So we begin to classify between, we may consider, or it may be considered that somebody may be 25 years and above. It's a good age, and maybe that person has had good experience in exposure in their line of business, or handling money, or even in relationships, because business is about relationships. Then there is the optimal age.
Which one is this optimal age?
Probably, I would guess, anyone from maybe above 25 years it's somebody who is of good age for borrowing. Then
is it because now they are stable? If those people depend on employment, they are stable, or that they have experience, as you said?
Yes, if you've been in employment, if it's employment, then there you worked for 1 or 2 years, 3 years. But an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, not unless you are running a family business, but that's another story. But then you move on to from 25 moving to all the way to 50, 60. But then we have the retirement age again in the country. Many people would retire at the age of 55 60, 65. That is still a good age and productive age. However, now when a borrower is approaching the bank, and it's the first time, or approaching the lender, and it is the first time, and this person is 65 years of age, moving to 70 years of age, it becomes age becomes an impediment to the lending decision.
I want to take you back a little bit. You talked about family business. Say I'm from a family that we had a family business. My parents, kwa bahati mbaya, they just passed on, and now the business was, I inherited the business. I'm 23, 24 years old. I need a loan to now grow this business. How do you look at that then? Now that my age is not is not friendly.
Not really. I give it to parents who really groom their children through business. I really value that, because business acumen, it is also passed down. What you see your parents doing, you likely will be do the same thing. So if they have been in business and they have actually engaged their children to participate in the business, in the bad occurrence that the parents are not there, and this young person has to run with the business, then clearly the background is important, and that's why I was saying we will look at the background. How is it been? What is your exposure? And you will hear some saying, I've been involved in my father's business since I was 10. Yes.
So is it a case of, is it a notion of case-by-case consideration? Absolutely.
Because this kind of lending is, like I mentioned, is what we call a structured lending. No straitjacket that everyone fits in this thin line. No. Everything can be argued out. And so we will be able to look at that and see. So this has a good background. Look at also, limit the exposure, probably not to begin with big exposures as we grow with the business and as we get also the youngster. to run the business well as we observe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, what happens then if, yes, I'm not that age, but I need a loan? What happens? What should I do? I'm not 25 or I'm not 30, according to the age that the lender requires me to be in. What happens then? What can I do now then to actually get this credit facility?
A very good question. Yeah. Because age will not outrightly send someone away from getting a facility. What I think one needs to consider or be aware of is that, like I mentioned again, there are mitigations. So if age is not your favor, what else is not in your favor? Yeah. Then what else can the lender do to boost it? Yeah. Or what else do you have that is a strong, a big advantage for you, is working for you, that we can be actually used to diffuse the aspect of age. Yeah. And one will be partnerships. You are in partnership with others. Or two, the kind of borrowing which I mentioned has a purpose. If it is a one-off deal where it's an asset acquisition, for instance, one wants to acquire an asset, maybe it's a vehicle for the business, then the issue of age will not come in, because we will throw that money, once it is disbursed, will go directly to the seller of the vehicle, so that all that the business wanted is a vehicle and it is availed. Yeah. So again, hardly do people do business on their own. They also have others. You find they have employed, they have maturer people, more experienced people working with them in the business. So these are the things that we consider to mitigate on parameters that may not be favorable to a borrower from the start.
Yeah, the reason why I ask that, MSMEs and SMEs nowadays, even a college guy can begin. In fact, there are people in high school and they're still doing businesses. So it thrives and it grows. When they are around 2022, they already have a big business, so to speak, as far as that is concerned. So, I mean, there must be something you people look at other than age that is very necessary. Yes. Moving on. People say that government employees are more considered, are more favored by lenders than those people who work in the private sector. Why?
Oh, really? Why? I really would want to interrogate that, where that comes from, or where that
it's a notion now.
That comes from. Not really. Not really that government employees are favored. No, it's the issue. The question here is, do you know your business? If you got it, you've tried it, it's running. There's no reason why a lender should discriminate or say we would have gone with a government employees more secure. Not quite, not quite. But what you find is most government employees have, because working for the government is a good employer, then majority of them have enjoyed credit facilities from lenders. Majority of them have built a lot of history of borrowing, and proper one for that matter, because of being with the government.
Is it because the government, you're sure that you're not going to be put off your job the next morning?
Yeah, the government is a good employer, very stable employer, very few chances of redundancies. Neither would there be a time when then the employer would be struggling to pay salary. They are always paid on time, and those are the parameters that we consider. That the government is a sovereign. We call it sovereign, and we take sovereign risk on government. And sovereign risk on government is a law. The risk is low. The risk on government is low.
It's low.
Yes.
Now, there's this that people talk about how long you've lived in a locality, in the physical address for a while. I mean, people consider that as also a factor that the lender will look at. Yule mtu wa kusonga songa, yule mtu that they're here today, tomorrow, next month they are moved to Kibra, they are out of Kibra, they've gone to Madare and all that. They are just those like nomads. So
residential nomads.
in lighter terms.
Yes.
I mean, do you consider that as a factor, and why is it necessary?
No, that's important. One, we consider lending is very diverse, and so we consider your nature of residence. So there will be a question. There might be a question in your application: where do you live? That question is always there. Where do you stay? And then you mention your estate. How long have you been there? Your physical, because that is your physical address. Like we said, we are lending into a future that is unknown. The lender would want to find out: are you a person who can settle down, or are you one who keeps on moving? And the reason for moving many a times is viewed to be negative. It could be that one is running away from rent arrears they have not paid, or they are not able to keep relationships for long. So that with that landlord, then you once in a while or after a short time, then you are not in good books. You have to move. Again, it could be it is viewed also as a risk in that one could be trying to run away from previous lenders who are trying to track them down. Yes. So we are keen to find out.
Cat and mouse.
Yes, a cat and mouse, and it's a big deal in lending. We call it even during recoveries. People who keep house. What that means is they ensure that because we need to come and collect the money in the day between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., then they ensure they are never home between 6 a.m. and yes. So what happens? So one ensures that they will never be available for you. Yes, to collect. So those are all things that we consider, and they may be related to a character. Eventually, they boil down to an individual's character. Yes.
I know there are so many other factors that you consider, but because of time, we want to pull them together now.
Yes.
Any other reason that any other factors that you people look at that you think that our viewer should understand. And after all that, we might be almost making people run away from seeking credit, seeking loans, but we want now to, after you've said all that, then now call them home. Call them home, come for all of that, and why they should. And do you think business can run without a loan? But that's next. Just a minute. Can you bring them together, those that we are not able to bring down?
Thank you, Vincent. I think the whole idea of this conversation we've been having is to give our viewers confidence that what we mentioned from start, we're demystifying borrowing, so that they have confidence as they approach banks and or lenders to know what exactly do we need to feed them, what exactly do they look at. And borrowing is good. Borrowing is good. The message is we're having this conversation because borrowing is good. It's good. But responsible borrowing is good. Lenders are in there to make their ends meet or to make their income. The borrower is there to propagate their business agenda. So we all meet there because of needs that are related to unique to each. And so borrowing is good. So I hope and pray that through this conversation, a lot of this has been clarified, which makes borrowing easier. Because now no cards are under the table. There are many other aspects that we consider, and businesses are taking different shapes and models in the present day. Many things that we'll look at when we are lending, they will involve the business as well, and issues of expertise. What is the qualification of the person running this business in that particular line of business? What is their experience? Have they gained the knowledge that is adequate to run that kind of business? That is usually key. Expertise. I can give an example of running a hospital, and you are not a doctor, for instance. It would be a concern for a lender in that it's good, you can run it, it actually can happen, but is it? But the thing is, you are taking a lot of risk in that you will be employing specialists, and you are not one of them. Or a contractor who then is not an engineer. A construction contractor is not an engineer. The question is, so the expertise, the skills, these are skills job, and you do not have those skills. The lender would be cautious in that then the people with the skills who you employ can take you captive, and you not be able to do well in your business because they will demand a lot from you. Levels of business diversification is also key. Lenders will prefer customers who have businesses that are highly diversified. The proverbial, don't put your eggs in one basket. In the current period, like the way we have gone through shocks, economic shocks because of COVID-19, businesses that are diversified in playing in different sectors are the ones likely to survive. And so those are things we will encourage borrowers. Diversify your businesses. Use technology. Digitalization is here with us. How often or how much as one as a borrower taken advantage of digitalization. The online markets are
the
here.
biggest market right now.
It's actually online. Is your business online? If you are not there, then you need to consider. A lender will be checking how conversant are you with the current happenings, and are you taking advantage of new issues. Succession is key. Succession.
Who takes over when you are not there?
When you are not there. And I think we need to emphasize this because we have many people running business, but they run. It's a couple. Someone may be married, but they're running their business that their spouses have no idea that business. Or your spouse and your children have no idea
they
what
don't
business.
Understand.
So the question is, what happens if you are not there?
The business will die.
Will die. And it is good for people to consider succession. And that's why most lenders would propagate the idea of forming or registering companies and legal entities. It is important than running a business under your own name. That ensures that then there is longevity, because companies are what we call perpetual succession. They never die. Environmental concerns will be issues. What business is your business affecting the environment, and in what way?
Are you in quarrels with NEMA and all that?
NEMA, compliance, noise, water pollution. Those are key concerns. Are you cutting down trees, fires that cause pollution? Those are key concerns in the current. Your products that you're doing or you're selling, how friendly are they with the environment? Those are key concerns.
Legal compliances, licenses, permits. There are businesses without license.
Yes, the licensing is important. Now there is a lot of regulation coming, and it is not only local, but it is also global. There is a lot of requirements out here in terms of compliance to certain parameters. Issues to do with like, for instance, those who are in energy sector, there are a lot of regulations coming in terms of those who are selling gas. If you're selling fuel, how do you handle fuel to ensure that it does not pollute the environment during transportation? Have you taken enough measures to ensure you don't pollute the environment? Those are key. And so therefore, lenders would be trying to see, have you taken the relevant or have been given the relevant licensing to do the kind of businesses that you're doing?
Very necessary, very important. A perfect one, Mr. Isaiah. Now, in a minute, why should people consider SMEP and not another microfinancing bank, so to speak?
That's a very good question. SMEP is the bank of choice, particularly for MSMEs. Even our name stands for it. SMEP has an SME in it. We are very relevant to that market in that we walk that journey with our borrowers. We are able to train. We are able to give financial skills, and then also come closer to the borrower in that we are present across the country with 40 branches. In those units, we are able to meet most of Kenyans who would be wanting to reach a potential institution that can be partner to their businesses. So SMEP, we pride ourselves to be close to Mwananchi. We are the Mwananchi Microfinance Bank. And once they walk in through our doors, we will be able to walk with them the journey of borrowing, which they will not regret.
Good. I think that is enough said. Well said. I think we've taken time to really demystify the truths and the untruths about borrowing and lending that people have. At least you brought out what people do at the headquarters to the limelight. People know what happens now.
Yes.
And it's easier for now our viewer to come and try to walk through the door and access that credit facility that is so important and necessary nowadays for MSME and SMEs that want to grow.
Yes.
Now, next time I want us to look at saving. People say that in Kenya, especially for young people, the saving culture is almost not there. So that's what I wanted to look at next time.
That's a hot one.
Yeah, God giving us an opportunity next time. But as always at Kazi na Mali, I will conclude with a quote. And today, I want us to look at Steve Jobs. You know Steve Jobs?
Yes.
Yes, the great, the guy
Apple.
behind Apple.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something that he said is very important for you and for me. He said that if you really look closely, most overnight success, let me read this again. If you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time.
Oh yeah, it was. There a lot of work happens behind doors.
Yeah,
and behind closed doors, what you see is just a tip of the iceberg
of what happens behind the scenes.
Yes.
That is it from Kazi na Mali. See you next week when we take time to look at the saving culture, especially in the young people here in Kenya. My name is Vincent Kerosi. As always, I've been with my guy, Mr. Isaiah Munguti.
It was a pleasure.
A pleasure. Always having you.
Thank you.
And see you. God bless you.
Thank you.
See you next week. Enjoy your evening.